Thursday. You scared me for a second.
Okay, it's 6:30. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mitch, call the roll, please.
Alphon.
Here.
Dr. Melhouse.
Here.
Dr. Nystrom.
Here.
Stephen.
Here.
Pritchard.
Here. Recognition of visitors. I don't think we have anything here, do we, Julie?
Nope.
Nothing. So on to consideration of the agenda. Anything to add or modify, change?
No, I would recommend approval as it's stated.
Any questions on the agenda?
Move to approve agenda.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Agenda's approved. Hearing a delegation. The time we set aside to hear from anybody. Hutch isn't even here tonight.
I know.
Traveling.
Probably with us virtually.
We'll move on to routine business. Consent agenda. Anything here?
We do have a late ad under resignations for Stephanie Bruno for FCS. We admitted her before, but she has resigned. So just adding her, since you've probably seen that last.
That's at the end of the school year.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Mhm.
I don't think there were any bills to pull out this month, were there?
Let's see, I'll move to approve the consent agenda as printed and modified.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A second. Any other questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passes. Okay. Number one, let's see here. It's 6:32. We're going to go ahead and open a public hearing to discuss the proposed issuance of approximately 6.3 million school infrastructure sales, services, and use tax revenue bonds. Is this Mitch or Julie?
Well, this is our homeschool assistance program and futures building. Nothing's changed.
Open up.
I did.
And so nothing's changed since we set the hearing, unless there are questions that we can answer.
No written comments or questions.
Any questions from board members?
Nothing on, you don't have anyone on the
Online watching?
online watching with any questions?
Nope.
Okay, it's 6:33. I'll close the hearing. Number two is a resolution supporting the proposed issuance of approximately 6.3 million school infrastructure sales, services, and use tax revenue bonds.
Move to approve the resolution supporting the proposed issuance of approximately 6.3 million school infrastructure sales, services, and use tax revenue bonds.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And moved and seconded. I think this is a roll call vote.
Yep. Alphon.
Yes.
Dr. Melhouse. Yes. Dr. Nystrom.
Yes.
Stephen.
Yes.
Pritchard.
Yes.
Okay.
So number three, bond refunding savings. This should be a fun one to talk about.
Yeah, hopefully. So this is something that you as a board had asked for us to bring to you, is just a summary of the savings that have occurred over the years of all of the refunding and advanced sales of tax revenue that has taken place. And so this actually encompasses the last 13 years. It's divided into two categories, one for the general obligation school bonds and the other for the sales tax revenue bonds. You can see the total savings to our taxpayers is $3,510,350.
So that's excellent news.
And you've had a lot of motions, a lot of hearings, a lot of resolutions, and this kind of puts into perspective what all of those actions actually result in.
Looking just the last 3 years saved
Mhm.
um,
$1 million.
over $2.75 million approximately. Just-
Put us in a good position to manage the overages on for the construction costs. So least we can
Well,
say
and
we tried hard over the years to be
absolutely.
successful.
Well, it did put us in a better position. There are other districts that aren't as fortunate as we've been able to still move forward despite the significant increases in costs. And we've been able to do that because of the work that the board has done historically. Some other districts have had to abandon those projects as a result of those situations. So it's not only saved taxpayer money, but it's also allowed for projects to occur that may not have occurred otherwise.
It's a lot for the future,
Mhm,
what we were doing.
Absolutely.
Excellent news. I appreciate that, Julie. We just need to make sure we get that out to the public.
To understand that
Like what all that means when we do all those hearings and resolutions, right? We will do that, but we wanted to share with you first as a board. That was something that you had asked for, so we wanted to make sure we shared at this. And if you had any questions about it, like which of the bonds were what, or if there's any questions, we wanted to be able to answer that.
Anything else from board members? Okay, we'll move on to number 4, fiscal year 23 budget estimate and public hearing notice.
Yeah, here's another hearing notice, right? So I'm gonna let Mitch explain what this hearing is about.
So this is for our annual budget. We prepared the budget with ISFIS like we do every year. This is just setting the public hearing notice for next month on April 11th for our normal budget, our budget amendment, and then flexible spending account. Do want to mention, so the board knows and the public knows, we are going to decrease the property taxes for the district by 32 cents. Our valuations are high enough. So we're able to drop it 32 cents per thousand. So
we're at 1897 is what you're telling me?
yep, we were at 1897. We're going to do 1865 for next year. So
Just out of curiosity, what kind of impact does that have on like a, $150,000?
for a $100,000 home, it's $320 a year. So a couple $100,000 home, it's $600. So
So it's real money.
yep.
It's significant enough that you'll notice.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be something you miss. Yeah.
Sure. That's very good news.
Um,
I'll move to set the hearing
For the fiscal 23
budget to publish on April 11th at
6:30 PM.
a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, or any further questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 5, fiscal year 22 budget amendment and public hearing notice.
So this is different because this is an amendment to the budgeting that was done last year. So this is very typical for districts to do every year, to amend the budget. Once you're further into the year, you know exactly what your expenses are going to be and where you need to sit with your budget. So I'll let Mitch share with you where we've increased and the reasons why.
So as most of you guys know, we have 4 areas we have to watch in our budget: instruction, support, non-instructional programs. So that would be like our food service and beef, and then other expenditures for capital projects, bond refunding, stuff like that. Every year, we always at least amend 2 of them. It doesn't harm us at all. It doesn't create more tax or anything. It just gives us the authority to spend in case we would overspend in that area. We're proposing increasing instruction and milling just for increased educational costs that we didn't know we had a year ago, and then COVID. So the retention payments are included in that as well. Same with the support. They're kind of both the same reason. And then we want to increase other expenditures. We didn't know we were going to refund 3 bonds and issue another bond this year. So we need a little bit more leeway in there in the budget to make that work. So this is what was published in the paper and will be on the board meeting on the 11th for approval as well with the budget.
And we have the cash to
Yep.
all this.
Yeah, so it's not a matter of not having the cash, it's truly giving us the authority to spend it. So that's something that's unique about schools for anyone who's listening, is that we have to have the authority to spend it. We can have money in the bank and not be able to spend it. This is allowing us to spend money that we have.
Yep.
So that's all that is,
Thank you, Vax.
for asking that question. Mhm.
And it's not saying we're over
For asking that question. Mhm.
And it's not saying we're over 8.6. It's just
No.
because we had new projects come up and such, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's important to note. We weren't off $8.6 million in our budgeting. That's not the
I mean,
at
You
all.
know, well,
Yeah.
we set the budgets for the, following year in March and April, during this time. So we didn't know what we were doing for sure. So,
This is something we have every,
yep,
Every year.
8.5 years now.
about every,
Just every year, just different amounts. These numbers are a little bit higher, but when you
consider the
Mhm.
COVID authorizations you guys just made last week, which comes out of a different fund than the general fund, which we have the money for, and the fact that we're funding these bonds and the construction work we're doing. It's totally reasonable.
Any further questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move we approve the FY '22 amendment.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
second.
Motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. On to number 6 here, flexible spending account in public hearing.
I'll start and let Mitch finish again. So under the legislature has, in the last several years, given a little bit more flexibility with some of our accounts, but in order to do that, requires some steps like public hearing and being able to give notice to the public that we'd like to kind of move funds from this bucket into this bucket. And so that's all we're doing is making sure people know that this is what our plan is. And I'll let Mitch say what the plan is, but that's why we do this, is because that's part of, and it's stated there, the code, chapter 21 and 298A Code of Iowa requires that. So that's why this notice of public hearing is on our agenda.
if you remember, we've done this in years past. First year we did, it was my first year. We took 70,000 out of preschool. And we did it preschool again the following year. Last year we made action to take out of homeschool, which we never did, because we were fine on general fund. This year with allowable growth being as small as it is, and us having to add some staff, we want to put in the flexible spending account, because we're adding a first grade teacher position, and then we added that second work-based learning coordinator. So that's our use for those funds. It won't cover the full cost, but it will help those costs.
And will those be covered in the future in another way or just
We're,
regular budget or?
yeah,
In the regular budget.
and we're able to take, I think it's 5 or 6 different accounts. As long as those accounts are fully funded and operational and sound, then we can do this to those. So
Great, thank you.
So I'll move that we have another public hearing.
On April, for the FY '22
Flexibility account notice of public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, parchment contract.
Mitch, were you gonna do that? or just-
Levi should be
Levi's
here.
gonna do that? Okay, perfect.
Well, so parchment is a for transcripts. Megan McIntyre approached me, high school counselors. She was getting requests from colleges and universities to have a electronic transcript delivery service. So they would ask her, can you send through parchment and contract? Do that currently. Most of our transcripts go out in physical mail today at the end of the year. We do some one-off through email, which is not really a secure way to send student data. So Parchment basically has us upload everybody's transcript from Infinite Campus. And then the students go in and pick what schools they want to send to. They would say, I want to apply to University of Iowa, Iowa State. And it just sends it electronically to those schools. If they happen to pick a school that's not on that list, they will mail it. So the fee is like like 40 a year. That covers all of our current students, electronic and print delivery for their transcripts. Alumni would have to pay, there's a fee listed there of $4.15. So that's mailing it if I have to for alumni.
Here at the board also, Levi, what alumni counts, because one of the questions that we posed, when do you count as an alumni? 'Cause we didn't want the day after they graduated to be, they were alumni.
It's a little tight in my opinion,
Mhm.
but they've got until August 1st. So if they request a transcript August 1st after they graduate, they're considered alumni. They don't have to pay, unless we want to pay more per year, we can pay for it for alumni also. Cut off the part.
Much more is it to you? They made the alumni. thing.
I want to say it was about 1,200 more
We'll sing it.
for alumni.
You know what we,
There's something I wanted you to be aware of and to weigh as you discuss this.
we know what we pay now in sending transcripts. I mean, it's like a very convenient process. I'm just curious.
Some like back of the napkin math and come up with roughly half of that number. If you just figure postage and time spent on printing out, we're probably undercounting.
And judging by this list, it doesn't look like there's another service that, I mean, this seems most
Pretty much
places
it.
must use.
We have the whole market share at this point. Not a lot of competitors.
Interesting, there's only about a dozen schools that do this, high schools.
Not a lot of high schools in Iowa yet. It's bigger in other parts of the country. All the universities accept transcripts from Parchment, but not a lot of high schools are paying to send them through Parchment yet.
Is there any other similar services that we need to look at or that you've looked at?
Really couldn't find any others that were used broadly. That's what all the colleges keep asking for.
So the colleges are pushing schools to adopt this system.
We're the ones putting the bill.
Yeah.
But I think the concern that we also had was with regard to some security. I don't like the idea of just emailing student records. That doesn't seem right.
It's very manual, so there's a risk of, oops, I emailed the wrong student's records somewhere. Whereas we have to let them all very automated process through campus and Parchment. And then the student controls where their data goes. So I think that's much better from a data security perspective.
If you're a student at Boone High School and you want to send your transcripts, can you send it to all of these? If
Yeah,
you wanted to without an extra fee type thing, as long as you're not technically an alumni yet?
Mhm.
You can send them across town.
Apply all.
Yeah.
Email.
I just think for $1,000 to have it be convenient to help get our kids, the graduated information to the colleges they may want to attend. I don't know if we have 3,000 in the budget for that necessarily, but to me, it seems like something that could only help our students to apply themselves for their future. So
The 3-year contract, our plan was to split it between the tech budget and the high school budget because it's going to save them some operational costs. It's going to save us some headache on the information security side.
Split it between the two.
Yeah, huge.
Move to accept the Parchment agreement.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thanks, Bob.
Motion carries. Number 8, AEA purchasing agreement.
So every year I think it's every year now,
Yep.
isn't it? That we renew the sharing agreement that we have for our transportation direct. So the agreement was in your documents and nothing's changed.
We're an
Oh, AEA.
Or an AEA,
Wrong
sorry, I'm on the wrong one. I moved ahead already. The AEA agreement is just to get the best purchase price, honestly.
This is an
Um,
annual thing.
Yeah, we do it every year. So this is the one that we, for just getting all of our nutrition items through AEA purchasing because they can do it as a larger body by putting all the schools together. So we get the best price. So that's what this one is. Yeah, I skipped. Sorry. I was on the wrong one.
Questions on the AEA purchasing agreement?
Move to accept the AEA cooperative food purchasing agreement for
Sure.
22-23.
Is there a second?
Second.
Just out of curiosity, quickly, are we the east zone or west zone for the detergent?
For Martin.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we Martin or EMS detergent?
Where are you?
Martin,
I'm sorry.
Right there, right below your
C.
cursor, C.
See?
Oh,
Oh,
Oh, Martin Brothers.
yeah, we're Martin Brothers.
For Weston.
Yeah.
I think we had a motion and a second. Any further questions, discussions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So shared transportation
Now
director.
we're on the one I was on. So this is, we do this every year with, we share him with United Community School District, and United pays for 20% of the director's costs. And the agreement, all that's been changed is the dates. So we're just proposing that we continue to share. I've spoken with Pam Dodge about the desire from United's perspective to continue that, and they would like to continue as well. So each of us are approaching our boards about renewing the agreement.
I assume we feel comfortable the 20% is accurate still. I'm just asking the question.
So the way the agreement, the way the agreement stated on this is a little bit different because it's 100% for Boone, and then he has to do an additional 20. So I think that's still accurate. I don't feel that she thinks that it needs to be more or less. That was what I talked to her about. Was there anything in the agreement that we need to alter that, needs aren't being met or being overmet, anything like that? And
Mike's in agreement to this.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'd move to approve the sharing agreement with United Schools Transportation Director as presented.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Further questions or discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to number 10, Boone Community School District Career Ready Iowa District Plan.
yeah, so I'm going to let Dr. James talk about this one. This is something that we need to have you approve as a board for something that we applied for. So
This is our ICAP plan, our career and academic planning that all of our students in grades 8 through 12 must complete a plan and start their post-secondary planning beginning in 8th grade. It's a requirement by the state, and annually it should be reviewed. I think it's been a couple years since we brought it to you because there's been some other things happening, and that one kind of slipped by the wayside. But they've kind of restructured at the state level how they're collecting and reviewing these plans, and some other supports that they're putting in place for more of that post-secondary readiness, college and career planning that I feel like we present to you a lot about all of the things that we have in place and are trying to continue to expand to support our kids in that post-secondary planning. So really the document is just a compilation for the state of the efforts that we're trying to make K-12, but particularly for their purposes in grades 8 through 12 to support kids in the 5 components that are required that are someplace in the document.
Am I going?
It's fine. Go down just a little bit. Summary and kind of all the things we have in place, right?
Page 5.
essential
Yeah,
components,
essential
there you go.
components. So those are the things that we must do from state legislation perspective is we have to make sure that kids take part each year in beginning in 8th grade through 12th grade in each of those essential components. Assessing their values, their interests, those types of things, looking at different careers and what careers look like, exploring those careers through different work-based learning experiences, post-secondary exploration, and looking at how would I pursue more advanced training in an area of interest, and then kind of what is my decision? Where do I feel like I'm going to go after high school? So at a minimum, we need to have kids kind of review those things each year. But of course, we always want to do better than that. And I feel like the team that put this plan together, we had Scott and John and Drake and counselors from the middle school and the high school, and Lindsay Hyman with our work-based learning director attend training in January to really look at what do we have in place and where are some of the holes or places we feel like we could do better. And then we try to kind of, we like the idea of the table to organize what are the different things that we have in place for each of those grades to do each of those 5 components, but go a little bit deeper too in some of those career awareness beyond taking a few days in a class to do an inventory, but really thinking about where are we intentional about our programming with our exploratories at the middle school, how can we leverage those a little bit more and maybe use Lindsay and her expertise and our expansion of work-based learning at the middle level to do some more career awareness and kind of capitalize on opportunities for kids at a younger age. And then all of the efforts that the counseling department has made with the high school team this year to think about how can we change our college and career anywhere from just a visit booth to booth to booth, and pick up free pens, and do what Mr. Pritchard asked them to do for a little activity. But really make it more of a, they had some counseling, they reviewed some of their interest inventories before they went into the career fair this year. They made a plan for who they wanted to talk to at the college and career fair and wrote out questions ahead of time. And then all of our students went in and it was just much more intentional in its processing to try to meet these demands. So this is the plan that our counseling team and admin folks have put together with our CTE teachers to meet our state requirements, but also to kind of say that this is really where we have set for some goals that we want to do for kids and to continue to get better at that. We bring it to you for approval.
I know this is a requirement for state for the 8th through 12th, but you also mentioned K-12. So do you have another document that shares what you're doing for the elementary level?
We don't have that document, but
Okay.
this really follows that template that we were required to put
Right.
to turn in. I think it would be wise for our district to map out K-12. What does that really look like? And I really think in the next year, as we identify our portrait as a graduate and with the addition of that shared coordinator with Ogden that can do some of the, pick up some more of the teaching, and Lindsay can assume that K-12 role, we can put that document together to feedback from admin team and like I said, the portrait of a graduate team, those things that really defines K-12, what that looks like.
Thank you.
So nope, it's not included in this one.
I knew it wasn't included, but I just wondering if there was a separate
Would you
document.
like to have it? It sounds like something that would.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've talked about that.
Thank you.
Sure we have alignment throughout the system, so.
John, Drake, Scott, anything to add to that? Very riveting. But it kicked off our.
I move to accept the CSD Career Ready Iowa District Plan.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you for approving that team's work.
So number 11, Board Policy 407.3, voluntary early retirement.
So if you recall the last regularly scheduled board meeting, we adopted the first reading of the policy, and we did not have any changes based on the conversation from the first time. So we bring it to you for a second reading without any additional changes based on the conversation that we had last month.
Any questions from board members? Entertain a motion.
I would,
To approve Board Policy 407.3, voluntary early retirement.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further questions or discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 12, 28E agreement with the city of Boone.
So this is in reference to the construction of the road that will connect Hancock to Corporal Snedden. So you should have that document in your board docs, just stating out what the city and the school district have been discussing as to who's responsible for which components. And those are all outlined in that document.
I'm sure it's all been thoroughly vetted by. the
It's been
attorney.
vetted through our attorneys as well, yes,
In the city attorney.
and the city attorney. Mhm.
When do you anticipate they take this to council for approval?
I would
Do they
imagine,
meet tonight? It might be-
they met tonight.
yeah,
So they're on.
I
the
haven't
same-
looked, but
yeah.
they
Mhm.
approved it last week.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Mhm.
I'll move to approve 28E agreement with the city of Boone and the Boone Community School District as presented.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 13, building project update.
Yeah, so we had talked about, well, first we'll get to the fun part. The project has started too. So we had HVAC and come on Monday, and some of the gym pieces have begun. So at the high school, we have some progress that's started already. Our change order that I think we already discussed as board, but just put it on here since last month, was the change order for water-based stain versus the oil-based, if you recall that conversation. So that's why that's there, is just to remind you that that was a change order that occurred and the reason for the change order. But, so we're finally having some like destruction, basically, is what's happened. You know, we haven't built anything yet, but we're taking things down and starting on the process.
Lang, as far as, the elementary project, as far as when dirt can be turned.
Mhm. So we staked it once, we restaked.
Mhm.
And so we have a tile that we need to make sure is put in. So that'll be the first thing that will happen before we start like actually erecting the building portion of the elementary school. But we're anticipating that we'll be able to start, I know they were
believe-
doing some
I believe
things.
that job in the Futures Homeschool will start by
Right.
at least by the end of the month.
Yeah.
They thought. So.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I think we're doing pretty well. We're still on target.
Keep moving.
So far, so good. Mhm.
I'll move to approve that change order if we haven't already approved it.
Good.
Did we?
Last meeting.
It's just a reminder of what it is. And then also just anything under the 25,000, I said I would put into these so that if we approved it, you know, that was something that we did last month, said that if it was something I felt I could simply approve, I would do that, but I put it into the agenda item just so that everyone's aware of what the change orders are, so that that doesn't get missed. So that's why we did that.
I would just ask a comment. Could you refresh? I know there's not anybody listening, I don't think at this point, but just timelines on these again. I get asked all the time in the community
Okay,
of building timelines again.
sure. So
To make sure I'm telling the right information too.
the HVAC and the gym remodel at the high school, the goal is to have it done and ready to go by the start of school. So start of school for this next school year. HSAP Futures Building and the elementary building is the fall of 2023. That's the easiest way to describe it. So the fall of 2022 for the high school project, fall of 23 for the others. Mhm. Yeah,
I'm so excited.
yes, exactly.
Thank you.
And that, I'm sure you'll get asked about the road. That's also the intent for the road to be completed by then as well. So for fall of 23, not 22.
Any other questions? Anything to add? If not, we'll move on to superintendent's report.
So I just wanted to have another item that
Excuse me.
Dodge and I had shared. There is supposed to be an annual meeting between United and Boone about our whole grade sharing. And we agreed last year to forego it because of COVID, because of some of the things that were happening. And we had discussed a possibility of being able to do a joint meeting on 13th of April. And if there were specific agenda items that you want to make sure we address when we do meet together, that's something that I would like to have us have a conversation about now is
The last,
we have to do that anyway.
oh,
The last time you guys met was before me, so
I would think the last one I can remember was 4 years ago, was out.
interesting.
I haven't done one.
We
Wow.
had, I
Okay,
think the last one was here because it was
okay,
The one,
right
Mhm.
shortly after I started.
okay.
Didn't happen during the
I think it was that
year three and
that summer.
happened
Okay.
been on.
We should be
I don't
meeting.
even remember. I don't remember.
When Dr. Charleston was out there.
Our doctor
Mhm.
to get everything set up. So it's good practice, especially when you have the whole grade sharing going on, and make sure that all parties that are involved in that process are satisfied with how things are going, that you have a conversation about it. So that would be the purpose of a joint meeting. But if there was anything in particular that you wanted me to ensure that Pam and I make sure are on the agenda, that's something I just need to know. And to make sure the 13th would be a possibility. Is that a possibility, like at 5? I think she wanted it earlier.
on
It'd be
5:30.
5:30 is the earliest, okay?
Yeah.
So I can share that with her. Because I think they have a meeting after that, so I think that's what their plan was.
Be 5:30 early.
And just a reminder, we have a Monday meeting already
Mhm.
scheduled, so this would be an additional meeting that we would be meeting with them. But it would be our turn to meet on their, at their district, since they came here last. So that's why the suggestion of at United.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
If they can make 5:30 work, would that work?
Yeah, 5:30 is about the earliest I could get out there.
Okay.
too.
Okay. I'll check with Pam, and then if you think of anything in particular you'd like on the agenda other than our whole grade sharing agreements, just let me know, because that would be the purpose of the meeting.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
I think that concludes this portion of the meeting, right?
Mhm.
Are we going to move for the next part?
5:00.
And
I'll move that we hold a closed session as provided in section 21.5,
We're gonna
parentheses
do that in there.
We'll do that in there.
one, yeah. To evaluate professional competency of an individual whose performance is being considered when necessary, prevent needless and irreparable injury to that individual's reputation of the individual requests a closed session.
a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
Call?
Elfon,
Yes.
Dr. Melhouse,
Yes.
Dr. Nystrom,
Yes.
Gibbon,
Yes.
Richard.
Yes.
I don't know if that one.